Some people know Peppa's house like the back of their hand, but did you know there's a very good chance that this house actually exists in real life, and the cartoon has been hiding that from us this whole time? Peppa's house. A lot of fans were shocked when pictures of a real-life house identical to the Pig family's home started spreading across the internet. The images always showed the house from far away, but it was already possible to notice similarities that were impossible to deny. The same shape, the same color, the same roof, and as if that wasn't enough, the pictures also showed that the house was located on top of a hill, exactly like Peppa's home. For a long time, nobody knew exactly where this place was located, and because of that, some people thought the images had been edited and that the house didn't actually exist. But as unbelievable as it may sound, it was only a matter of time before people discovered that this construction identical to the Pig family's home really does exist. But we'll warn you right now, this place is hiding a secret nobody would ever expect. Get ready, because we're about to tell you everything we know about Peppa's real house. You already know, right? Another Cinewave is starting. Church. Yes, the house that started going viral online is real, and fans of the cartoon found out where it's located, and in this case, the structure is in Denmark. But there's one catch. This isn't actually a house, but an abandoned church. It's known as the Sandberry Church because much of it is covered by sand dunes. The Sandberry Church is much older than the Little Piggies show, having been built between 1355 and 1387. As you can imagine, in its current state, it's no longer used as a church today. In fact, it was closed by royal decree in 1795, 231 years ago. Now, if we do the math to figure out how old the building really is, we end up with an even bigger number. It has existed for more than 600 years. Seriously, there are countries younger than that. It's bizarre that a historical location has so many similarities to the Pig family's home, but even though it's a church, it's still very possible that the creators of Peppa Pig, Neville Astley and Mark Baker, were inspired by the Sandberry Church when thinking about the design of Peppa's home. Maybe they saw the structure during a trip to Denmark and liked its simple shape. New house. A church identical to Peppa's house is already a strange coincidence, but it seems that even the new version of the Pig family's home exists in real life, since a house identical to it was also spotted in the real world. And that's even more impressive because the Pig family's house redesign is something very recent. In other words, it's pretty unlikely that some rich fan built this house just to make it look like Peppa's new home or something like that. This place has almost certainly existed for much longer, which could mean that it actually served as inspiration for the redesign, just like the Sandberry Church was probably the inspiration behind the classic look of Peppa's house. Unlike the Sandberry Church, nobody knows where this building that caught the attention of so many fans is located. What we can't deny is that it's a huge coincidence that there are two buildings so similar to Peppa's houses, with one being identical to the original version and the other looking extremely similar to the redesigned version. Some people theorize that this second real-life location could also be a church seen from far away, Town Square. And you know what's even worse? It seems that Peppa's house isn't the only thing from the show that exists in real life. There's a town square we see in some episodes of the series, and it has some similarities that are incredibly hard to ignore with Portobello Road, a street located in London's Notting Hill district. And we're not talking about one or two similarities, but basically everything. The incredible number of shops, the colorful buildings, and even the Victorian architecture. All of these things can be seen both in Peppa Town's shopping square and on Portobello Road. It's not exactly a secret that Peppa Pig constantly references England, since the show comes from there and has become a national icon, just like Bluey is an icon in Australia. So it makes perfect sense that one of London's most famous streets, and one heavily visited by tourists, would have inspired part of Peppa Town. So, would you like to visit Peppa's home in real life? If yes, comment down below. #house museum. Another really cool place in Peppa Town is the museum they visit from time to time, but you can tell it's not as unique as it seems once you take a look at London's British Museum. The two are surprisingly identical, and once you notice it for the first time, it becomes impossible to unsee. And the similarities aren't just on the outside. The inside makes it even clearer which museum is being represented here. We see rooms filled with royal relics and others with giant dinosaur fossils, in a way that looks extremely similar to the exhibits you can find if you visit the British Museum in real life. The biggest difference between these two museums is that the one in London is surrounded by streets and buildings, while the Peppa Town Museum sits on top of a hill, just like practically everything else we see in this town. That's the only change that really stands out to us. Aside from that, the two museums are almost identical. Pig family. With so many things in the Peppa Pig universe being based on real life, an interesting question starts to come up, and honestly, it makes more sense than most people want to admit. What if the Pig family actually exists in real life? Not as pigs walking on two legs and talking, of course, but as real people who inspired the creation of Peppa, George, Daddy Pig, Mummy Pig, and even Evie TV, especially because this is something that happens a lot in cartoons. Just look at Bluey as an example. Several characters are based on the family of Joe Brumm, the creator of the series. Some of his relatives even provide the voices for those characters, like his parents, who voice Bluey's grandparents. We only know this because the creator of the cartoon decided to reveal it, but if he hadn't wanted to, we probably never would have discovered the truth, and it's possible that this is exactly what happened with Peppa Pig. Some real-life family may have inspired the main characters, but nobody ever revealed it to us. Peppa Town exists. Okay, at this point, it's easy to notice that many places in Peppa Town are based on real-life locations, most of them from London, while Peppa's old house is based on an abandoned church in Denmark. Realizing all of this makes us start believing in an idea that actually makes a lot of sense. What if Peppa Town exists in real life? Of course, we're not saying there's a town with that exact name inhabited by talking animals, but rather that every location in Peppa Town is based on a place that really exists, even if not all of those places are part of the same city, or even the same country. Many of these settings were inspired by London, while others seem to have been inspired by different countries across Europe. Because of that, there are probably many other real-life places that look a lot like the locations we see in Peppa Pig, such as Madame Gazelle's school. It's probably only a matter of time before fans discover those places and pictures of them start spreading online. Fake name. If we gathered together every real-life place that inspired the settings in Peppa Pig, it would probably be possible to recreate Peppa Town in real life. But maybe that isn't even necessary. Even though it would be hard for there to be a town with that exact name inhabited by talking animals, it's not that absurd to think that some real city may have been the main inspiration behind the one we see in the cartoon. Since both a street and a museum from London were practically recreated in Peppa Town, it would be fair to believe that Peppa lives in an alternate version of London. But there's something that keeps that theory from fully making sense, and we'll talk about that in a moment. The important thing is that Peppa Town feels much more like a rural town, since almost every building sits on top of a hill. There are several towns like that across Europe, so don't be surprised if one of them turns out to be the inspiration for Peppa Town. In fact, if we take into account that the series is shown from Peppa's perspective of the world, it's possible that the real name of the town where she lives isn't even Peppa Town at all, but another name that she replaces in her mind. Maybe the real name is actually the name of a rural European town that has been adapted into the cartoon all these years without anyone ever realizing it. There's a new video here every day, so subscribe and hit the bell to stay up to date. London. The main reason why we believe Peppa Town is not the show's version of London is because Peppa and her friends have already visited that city. In the universe of the cartoon, London is called by its real name and looks very different from Peppa's town, with a much more urban appearance, full of streets, buildings, and cars. Besides London, we even got the chance to meet the Queen, who, despite not being called by her full name, is clearly the real-life Queen Elizabeth II who passed away in 2022. Speaking of that, remember that incredible scene where she jumps off a bridge while driving a school bus? That actually happened in real life too. Well, it wasn't Queen Elizabeth herself who did it in real life, but rather a driver named Albert Gunter. He even received a bravery medal for his actions, which became permanently remembered in England's history. Real cities. London wasn't the only real city Peppa has visited. To be honest, this has happened many times, with her also visiting New York City and Paris, showing that all real-world cities seem to exist inside Peppa Pig. And that's actually kind of funny, because it seems like the only city in the cartoon that doesn't exist in the real world is Peppa Town itself, where almost every episode takes place. Unless, of course, our theory about Peppa Town is correct, and it really does exist, just under another name that has never been revealed until now. Do you think that one day Peppa's Town's real name will finally be mentioned in an episode, or will the show do everything possible to keep the truth hidden forever? Peppa Theme Park. It's worth remembering that, besides all these suspicious similarities with real-life places, Peppa's world is often partially recreated in Peppa Pig theme parks, where kids who are fans of the Little Piggies show go with their parents to have fun and feel a little closer to the characters they love so much. So if you don't want to visit the Sandberry Church or simply don't feel like going there, this is definitely a much more relaxing place for a Peppa Pig fan to visit. We've left 2 videos on your screen so you can choose and keep having fun with us. See you in the next video!